Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today on the website of Brompton's Auctioneers based in the UK, we're going to have a look at one of their latest auctions, which is a general musical instrument sale. So this is the lower level stuff. They usually have some fine instruments and some lower level auctions. This is one of those general ones. Now it does seem to be mostly violin family instruments, so violins, violas, cellos and bows. I think there might be the odd random thing somewhere in between, but it's mostly that kind of stuff. This is a similar auction to, say, Terezio T2, I would say. Looks like there's over 300 lots, so quite a lot of stuff there. This auction is finishing on the 8th of December. It's the 3rd today, so a few days left to go on that. Buyer's premium is 20%, but much like Terezio, if you're the first to bid and end up winning, you get 2% off that, so it becomes 18%, which is quite useful. Just to say once again, this is a UK-based auction, so if you're looking to buy anything and you're from abroad, bear in mind import, export fees, shipping, CITES restrictions as well, all of that kind of fun stuff. Just to say, other than that, if you do enjoy these videos, please consider subscribing, like or comment, because it really does help quite a lot. Now, there's lots of stuff to look at today, so we're just going to have to blitz through it as quickly as we can, really. So without further ado, let's crack on. Got a bow here. French nickel-mounted bow, workshop of Louis Bazin, 1300 to 1800 there, certificate of Jean-Francois Raffin there, so that's good. I like the way they've got QR codes as well, so fancy these days. Let's keep going. A German silver-mounted violin bow by Karl Müller. Let's just kind of zoom out a tiny bit there. Okay. German silver-mounted violin bow by Walter Gerhard Renz. Okay. English ivory-mounted violin bow by John Dodd, 4 to 600. Curious-looking bow here. I'm not really 100% sure what's going on here. Subject to CITES restrictions there. Condition report here. So yeah, curious looking thing. Round stick later button. Yeah, definitely an odd one there. German silver mounted violin bow. A lot of these things we're just gonna have to blitz through, really. Silver mounted violin bow, probably German. French silver mounted violin bow. An English silver-mounted split cane violin bow by Lawrence Cocker. Do see quite a lot of these about, 4 to 600. French violin bow by Joseph Arthur Vigneron Père, 1000 to 1500. Stick broken and attention required. You can see that there. So hence the kind of low estimate there. French silver-mounted violin bow made for Charles Buthold. German silver-mounted violin bow by Matthias Thelma. Yeah, it's interesting to see that even good violin bows now, even if they're broken, they can be worth money, as wasn't quite so often the case in the past. Bazin family bow there. German silver-mounted violin bow by Albert Hums. Yeah, even if it's got a break in the stick, it can still be worth money. Before, they were you just throw away, really. H.R. Frechner bow. But now people have realised that a good repair, your bow can play pretty well, so there's no reason to just get rid of it. A good German silver-mounted violin bow there. Also, quite a good way to get a cheaper bow if you're a musician. You can get one which has a break, and then you don't have the fear of kind of worrying about it breaking, I guess. Nickel-mounted violin bow, possibly by a member of the Bazin family, sold with another bow by Walter Seifert. Nickel-mounted, German nickel-mounted violin bow there. Silver-mounted violin bow, probably English. Okay, 800 to 1200, very good throughout. German silver-mounted violin bow. I'm sure you can ask for other condition reports as well if you wanted. A German gold-mounted violin bow by Emil Hermann. Interesting. It's got a later nickel button and a repair there. Estimates 2 to 300, but like I said, it's a way to get a cheaper bow. French nickel-mounted violin bow by Celestin Emile classical in. It's got a Raffin certificate, but the older one, no QR code there. 2021 though. Or maybe there's different levels depending on where it's sold. Nickel mounted violin bow, possibly English. It's quite interesting. 5 to 800. Don't usually have this description for possibly English bows. It's not that common. Anyway, an English silver mounted split cane violin bow by Lawrence Cocker. Another one there. I think he did make quite a lot of these. 3 to 400. Starting bids 50. Silver mounted violin bow made for Tom Blackburn. Okay. 5 to 800 there. German nickel mounted violin bow by Ludwig Bausch. German silver mounted violin bow by Wilhelm Hermann Hammig. Silver mounted violin bow by Ernst Martin. Quite a nice decoration there on the button. Or the adjuster even. I've got to stop calling it a button. French nickel mounted violin bow, probably workshop of Louis Bazin. Silver mounted violin bow, Stumped Dodd. German silver mounted violin bow. German nickel mounted violin bow, Knopf School. Always have these interesting kind of frogs. It's a curious looking thing. Right, we're on to instruments. An Italian violin by Minio Malaguti, Milan, 1986 there. Length of back 359, starting bids for 10. Violin attributed to Oreste Martini of Mantua, 1955. 356 length of back, that's already got a bid there. Violin attributed to Albert Knorr, Mark Nikirkin, 6 to 800. An Italian violin by Domenico Tomasini, Viterbo, 1950. Estimates 2 to 4. Curious wood choice there, that kind of big knot. Somewhat interesting, 1800 to start. Half-size violin, probably by Lorenzo Ventapane at Naples, circa 1840. 2.5 to 3,500 there. Okay. A violin attributed to Giovanni Battista Marassi, Cremona, 1970. Repairs to table and back. Soundpost crack in back with patch. So that's obviously going to have a massive effect on the value, but at least it's been patched. It's already hit the £420 reserve, so that's interesting. Violin by Adalberto Barani, Budapest, 2022. Interesting model there. Kind of curious F-hole, certificate of the maker. 2 to 4 the estimate. Violin, second half of the 20th century. Violin, probably German, slightly odd model there. A violin with guitar outline, probably first half of the 19th century. 5 to 800 on that. Violin attributed to Gabriele Peresci, Cavacuta, 1981. A lot of these attributed to things. Violin, probably German, circa 1890. German violin, workshop of Gotz. Violin attributed to Luciano Gardner, Cremona, 1990. Quite a nice back there. Interesting details. 351 length of back there. A violin attributed to Giuseppe Stefanini, Brescia, 1980. Current bid 1500 there. German violin by Johann Heinrich Schultz, Lübeck, circa 1890 there. So that's met the reserve as well. A violin circa 1920. Violin circa 1993. Primavera Capellini, Cremona, 1993. Okay. Violin, probably French, circa 1870. Okay, yeah, it's got one of these kind of elaborate paintings on the back. These are kind of interesting. A lot of them portray like Napoleonic scenes. Definitely interesting. A German violin, probably Tyrol, circa 1780. 2 to 3,000 the estimate on that, with an Albani label. 359 length of back, 2 to 3, that's quite nice. English violin by G.C. Davies of Manchester, 1957. Starting bids of 300, which, well, this is fair enough. Looks to be quite well made instrument there, so I think that's not too bad. Looks like it's got a button repair or something going on there. Violin, circa 1800. 4,500 to 6,000 on that. Right, an English violin by Ralph de St. Cross, Slough, 1921. That's a curious one. German violin, workshop of Derschmidt. Pretty standard stuff there. French violin by Léon Poisson. French violin, workshop of Marc Lebert. It's pretty standard stuff there. A good violin, circa 1925. Okay. A fine violin, attributed to and probably by Samuel Nemesanyi, Budapest, circa 1870, 5 to 8,000. Slightly unusual looking instrument here. It's labelled Samuel Nemesanyi there. Interesting even. Composite Italian violin, possibly Naples. It's quite nice here. This looks familiar as well. I think we've seen this before. Later Italian back and scroll. Okay, interesting. It's already got a bid, 1,300. English violin by Richard Hawke, probably London, 1814. Starting bids of 800. Later scroll there. Quite a curious looking one. Interesting violin, second half of the 18th century. 10 to 12 on this. Label Pier Lorenzo Vangelisti. Okay. Violin, circa 1948. Violin, circa 1770. 6 to 800 on that. Some looks like it's had a wax seal or something on the top at some point. Starting bids of 500. Really strange kind of grain arrangement on the back of that. 357. The length, soundpost crack in the table with patch. An Italian violin, School of Vinaccia, Naples, first half of the 19th century. 6 to 8 on that. An Italian violin by Giovanni Dodi, Modena, 1876. An English violin by Leonard Labram, Nuneaton, 1986. An Italian violin by Otello Radighieri, Modena, 2 to 4 is the estimate on that. An Italian violin by Luigi Orsello, Milan, circa 1950. German violin, circa 1770. That's pretty bonkers looking scroll there. Interesting arching. Even on the back you can see it's got quite a high arch there. 350 to start. Well, that's a curious looking thing, let's be honest. Something weird kind of repair going on there. Some post crack in table. Violin attributed to Avesio Emilio Guerra, Turin. Starting bids of 8, that's quite a lot for an attribution. Violin attributed to Felice Beretta, Como. 1769. Current bid 2.6. An Italian violin, probably by E. Orselli. A German violin, circa 1800. English violin by Woodward, Birmingham, 1820. It's pretty cool. 353 length of back, interesting. Scroll, it's had a few repairs. Repairs to table, some post-cracking table, but it's patched, so it's not too bad for a 200-year-old instrument. Yeah, kind of interesting. An interesting violin, possibly Italian, circa 1760. Two to three on that. French violin by Louis Montessier. Vehicle, circa 1800. An English violin, circa 1790. This is quite a curious one. Quite like this, it's a bit quirky. Kind of cool looking back, actually. It's definitely interesting. I wonder if it's had a bit of woodworm. Looks a bit like that from the back. Repairs to table and ribs. Yeah, kind of curious. Starting bid 300. Why not? Violin, probably English, circa 1820. Let's just have a look at the details on that back a bit. Okay. German violin by Matthias Neuner, 1824. Violin, probably Paris, circa 1770. Okay. A violin, this is a bit random. Varnish looks a little bit messed around with there. Purfling looks a little bit kind of like it might be some kind of amateur work. Violin, circa 1850. Kind of interesting one as well. German violin, possibly workshop of Neuner and Hornsteiner. Yeah, could believe that. An Italian violin by Te Boon Lay, Cremona, 1975. 1000 to 1500 on this. Believe that this was a maker from Singapore that trained in Cremona. It's quite a plain looking instrument, but I mean, it could be a way to have a Cremonese instrument if you so desired. It's quite plain looking. French violin, Miracle, 1910. An English violin by Lawrence Cocker, Derby, 1965. Interesting varnish crackle on this. Starting bids of 800. Violin, probably English, circa 1820. Nice kind of back on this. Starting bids 400, unlabelled. Length back 354. Quite like that. That's quite cool. An Italian violin, circa 1815. After Guadagnini, 12 to 16,000. That's again quite a high price there to start with. Interesting back. Sold with certificate of Etienne Pavie, Paris, 2023. Let's see. Curious. Composite Dutch violin, Hendrik Jacobs and later, Amsterdam, circa 1690. Later, table and scroll. Okay, that's interesting. Violin attributed to Orfeo Carletti, 1935. Current bid 700 on that. English violin by David Britton, Northampton. Starting bids 350. German violin by Louis Nobe, Homburg. Italian violin by Dario Aguzzi, Vidigolfo. And we see these Aguzzi things kind of everywhere. So 2 to 3 the estimate on that. Always with this heavy kind of dark dirt antiquing stuff. German violin by Christian Friedrich Schneider, Klingenthal, circa 1780. Starting bids of 600 on that. German violin School of Klotz, circa 1770. 700 to 1,000 on that. Current bid 500. Yeah, it looks like it could be quite a nice instrument. A German violin by Friedrich August Glass, Klingenthal, 1840. Start bids 1,800. Right, we're on to some bows again. German gold-mounted viola bow by Walter Seifert there. Good German silver-mounted viola bow by Gottfried Sturm. French silver-mounted viola bow by Marc Lebert. German silver-mounted viola bow by Lothar Seifert. Silver-mounted viola bow by Horst Schicker. An English silver-mounted viola bow by Percy Bryant. French nickel-mounted viola bow by Roger Lott. Silver-mounted viola bow attributed to Auguste Delivet. Good silver-mounted viola bow there. An English silver-mounted split cane viola bow by Lawrence Cocker again. English nickel and horn-mounted viola bow by Andrew Bellis. That's an interesting looking bow, isn't it? Slightly unusual. An English viola by Colin Wills, Somerset, 1985, after De Sarlo. Looks like very neat work. 41 length about, that's good. English viola by J.D. Nicholson, Bebington, 2010. 412 length back. Viola, circa 1925. 392, bit smaller. A viola, 405 length back there. A viola again, 411. An English viola by John Wynne, Northampton, 1995. 386 on that, another quite smaller instrument there. An English viola by Leonard Labram, Nuneaton, 1981. 419, that's good modern size. An Italian viola by Otello Radigeri, Modena, 2008. 4 to 6 on that, 3 to start. A good English viola by Martin Godleman, London, 1980. Interesting F holes on that. 2 to 3 on that, 1800 to start. German viola, circa 1920, 2 to 4. German viola by Karl Sifscher, Cologne, 1927. 4 to 6. A German viola, circa 1920. An English viola by Colin Wills, Somerset again, after Sarlo, so that clearly likes those models. 398 length back. German viola, circa 1930. French viola Mirecourt, circa 1810. An English viola by Ronald William Prail, London, 1986. 409 length back there. Oh, we've gone a bit ahead of ourselves there. German viola by Ernst Heinrich Roth, 800 to 1200 on that. An Italian viola by Cesare Topetti, 2001. We've got 4 to 6 on this, 3.5 to start. Viola, probably Italian, circa 1920. Curious looking thing. Viola, probably English, circa 1820. Viola attributed to Raoul Politi, Rome 1965, 401. An English viola by Norman Fern, Manchester 1996, 5 to 700 on that, 410. 400 to start. A viola attributed to Franz Geisenhoff, Vienna 1820, quite a nice looking instrument. 2000 to start there, 423, length of back. A German viola, circa 1860, quite a small one. English viola by Lawrence Cocker, so a lot of Lawrence Cocker things in this auction. German silver-mounted cello bow there by Albert Nernberger. I suspect this means we're going to see some cellos soon. Silver-mounted German cello bow there. Once again, English. Oh, an English silver-mounted cello bow by Jan Kudenowski, 1000 to 1200 there. Already got a bit of 900 on that. Good throughout, though straightness of stick requires attention, so it needs a bit of work. French nickel-mounted cello bow, School of Beaux-Arts. Silver-mounted cello bow. German silver-mounted cello bow by Albert Nernberger. English silver-mounted cello bow by Lawrence Cocker, so we've got the whole collection there. French silver-mounted cello bow, 500 to 700 there. Silver-mounted cello bow by, or attributed to James Tubbs. French silver-mounted cello bow by Charles Nicolas Bazar. A German silver-mounted cello bow. German nickel-mounted cello bow, School of Bausch. Silver-mounted cello bow, possibly by Louis Henri Gillette, 3 to 5 on that. Quite a lot of cello bows. Nickel-mounted cello bow, made for Gand and Bernardel. Silver-mounted cello bow by Alessandro Carlesso. Silver-mounted cello bow there. An English silver-mounted cello bow by W.E. Hills and Sons, 900 bid on that. Later button. Nickel-mounted cello bow, workshop of Finkel, further stamped Swiss made. French nickel-mounted cello bow by GATL. Nickel-mounted cello bow by H.R. Frechner. English silver-mounted cello bow by John Clutterbuck. Nickel-mounted cello bow there. French silver-mounted double bass bow by Charles Baccat. Interesting, 2 to 4 on that. Nasty break there, but fixable. Silver-mounted bass bow by J.E. Vickers. A cello. Okay, got a Leonardo Rossi label. Looks very modern. An Italian cello by Gabriele Natali, Pistoia, 2017. Quite like that kind of accents on the F-hole, so it looks quite nice. 15 to 20. An Italian cello by Dario Aguzzi. It's Dario Aguzzi, The Mystery. An Italian cello of cordless outline by Carlo Leveri, Naples. Very interesting looking thing. A French cello, Mircor, circa 1890. A German cello by Karl Bitterer, Mittenwald. An Italian cello, probably Milan, circa 1750, 12 to 18,000 on that. Definitely a curious one there. I really like this peg box. It's quite cool. Cello attributed to Louis Colonel. German cello circa 1900. A cello circa 1950. Cello probably German circa 1800. A German cello by Michael Potscher, Klingenthal, 1929, for Beer and Sons. An English cello workshop of Thomas Kennedy, London, circa 1800. 15 to 20,000, starting bids of 13. A nice looking back there. German cello by Friedrich Kreuziger, 1974. English cello by John Basford, Sheffield, 1989. £2,000 bid on that. German cello by Benedict Lang, Mittenwald, circa 1970. German double bass, circa 1900. Right, we're on to other stuff now. An Italian bowlback mandolin by Gennaro and Achille Vinaccia, Naples, 1890. So Vinaccia, not just famous for Vinaccia family, not just famous for violins and stuff, but actually arguably more famous for mandolins, really, in some regard, although the values of the other instruments are a lot more. But yeah, very regarded mandolin makers. Books here: Italian violin makers by Gindin, that will go for quite a lot. Another Dimitri Gindin book there. Late Cremonese makers, a few of them in there, quite a lot. Guitar by Georgia Love, Surrey, in 1974. Okay. French nickel-mounted violin bow by Louis Bazin. So we're going to have a few more bows here. German silver-mounted violin bow. Another German silver-mounted violin bow. French silver-mounted violin bow by Louis Morizot Père. Pierre Guillaume certificate. He doesn't have QR codes on his certificate. Well, people, you got to get up with the times. French silver-mounted violin bow. School of Bazin, 3 to 500. I really like the pearl in that. It's really nice pearl. A German silver-mounted violin bow by Otto Derschmidt. French silver-mounted violin bow by Francois Nicolas Varin. So let's see, good throughout. Seems fair estimate. 3/4 size silver-mounted violin bow by James Tubbs. That's interesting. Silver-mounted violin bow. Okay. A Baroque style violin bow. Unstamped. A German nickel-mounted violin bow. 2 to 300. A French silver-mounted violin bow by Louis Bazin. Okay, sold with another bow stamped Thomasin. Silver-mounted violin bow, probably by Charles Nicolas Bazin. German silver-mounted violin bow by Emil Hermann. German silver-mounted violin bow by Karl Werner. German silver-mounted violin bow by Knopf School. French silver-mounted violin bow. German silver-mounted violin bow by Walter H. Walter Zapf. Silver-mounted violin bow, probably French. A nice head on that. Silver-mounted violin bow. A French nickel-mounted violin bow by Roger Francois Lotz. Got a Raffin certificate there. German silver-mounted violin bow by Alphonse Riedel. A Swiss gold-mounted violin bow by Johannes S. Finkel. French silver-mounted violin bow by Marc Lebert there. Oh, we're on to violin. That's a bit weird. Looks like we missed a whole load of lots out there. That's a bit strange. Anyway, a violin, 46,000. Faintly labelled Seri. Sold a certificate of Stefano Lupo. Okay. Starting bids 3.5. That's a weird looking instrument. Yeah, very bizarre. 360 length the back as well. A German violin, circa 1900. French violin, Calsat School, 5 to 800. An Italian violin attributed to and probably by Giacomo Zanoli, Verona, 1730. Nice looking instrument there. 10 to 15,000 the estimate on that. An English violin by Robert Thompson, 4 to 6 on that. French violin, second half of the 18th century, 3 to 5 on that. 350. That's interesting back size. French violin Miracle, circa 1880. A violin, pretty bonkers F-holes on this one. Also really interesting corner work going on here. Really quite an unusual thing. Yeah, whole thing is pretty weird. Labelled Lahey Martinus near Shoei, 1868. Am I assuming Dutch of some kind, possibly? Pretty weird. A violin, circa 1910. Violin, possibly French, circa 1880. Violin, probably French, circa 1770. Nice scroll. That's quite nice. 3 to 5. German violin, circa 1850. A violin, circa 1900. French violin, probably by Joseph Gaffino, Paris, circa 1760. Starting bids 12,000. Interesting. A violin attributed to Julius Hubika, Prague, 1934. Interesting. German violin, circa 1780. Length back 353. German violin, circa 1850. Someplace cracking table with patch. Violin attributed to Louis Joseph Germain. Violin School of Kuipers. Interesting. 7 to 10. Estimate on that. A lot of these instruments have certificates with Etienne Pavie of Paris, which is curious. German violin School of Widam, Nuremberg, circa 1780. 3 to 4 on that. Yeah, another one, Etienne Pavie. Interesting. All recent certificates. French violin, probably by Charles Adolphe Mocatel. Cool scroll. Paris, circa 1850. That's quite a nice looking instrument. Violin, possibly by Paul Bailly, circa 1900. German violin, circa 1800 there, 3 to 5. Violin, circa 1890. German violin, Mittenwald, circa 1790. An Italian violin by Giorgio Foschi, Emilia Romagna, 1963, 4 to 6 on that. A French violin by Jean-Baptiste Collin, Miracle, 1898. This is just a type of trade violin. These can actually be quite nice. It seems like a Guarneri model, JB Collin, actually quite nice. A German violin by Gabriel David Buchstetter, Regensburg, circa 1780. interesting model on this, 4 to 6. Oh god, that's absolutely horrible. Ugh. It gives me chills looking at that repair. Absolutely diabolical. Anyway, English Baroque violin by George Stoppani, Manchester, after Amati, 3 to 5 on that. It's quite well known, George Stoppani, for Baroque instruments and strings as well, I think. Violin, probably Scottish, circa 1860. Curious F holes on that. Bit of a dodgy button repair there. Some weird thing going on the neck as well. Starting bids 250. It's kind of curious, isn't it? An interesting looking one. Violin, circa 1760. Length back 352. Starting bids 700. It's got a bit of a problem, I think, at that button there. A few weird things going on. Yeah, some strange repairs, but kind of interesting violin. Violin attributed to Leon Fischer, Paris, 1919. A German violin by Eugen Wahl, Karl Ruhe. Violin, possibly English. Violin, possibly Italian, circa 1770. 2 to 3, the estimate there. German violin, circa 1830. Violin, circa 1930. A violin, possibly Italian, circa 1800. Labelled Santino Lauazza. A German violin, circa 1870. Looks in pretty okay condition. German violin by Sebastian Klotz-Mittenwald, circa 1760. 6 to 9 on that. Interesting button repair there. 353. Violin, probably Tyrol, circa 1800. That is a pretty bonkers scroll there. 3 to 5. Interesting. English violin, circa 1800 there. 1500 to 2000. French violin, circa 1890. Violin, probably French, circa 1900. German violin, circa 1890. German violin, School of Klotz, Mittenwald, circa 1790. Looks very different from the actual Klotz stuff. German violin, workshop of Wilhelm Derschmidt, Mark de Kirken. A French violin, Paris, circa 1780. Violin, circa 1780. 5 to 7 on that, that's quite a lot. Violin, circa 1940. An English violin by Jan Kudenowski, Birmingham, 1975. 3 to 5,000 on that. Looks actually fairly nice looking instrument there. A violin attributed to Joseph Hell of Lille, 1890. A nice scroll actually. Italian violin by R. Aristide Cavalli of Cremona, 1920. English violin, Ferber family, London, circa 1810. 1800 to start on that. Violin, circa 1920 after Presenda. 5 to 800 on that. No bids. Violin, probably Italian, circa 1800. German violin, circa 1890. Violin made for Jim Tate, Scotland. Interesting. 1928. Interesting. Back. Labelled Andres Renisto, Italy, 1928. Made for Jim Tate. Pretty bizarre. Violin was the main instrument of jazz violinist Steve Ellsworth for the majority of his career. Okay. Violin circa 1860. Labelled Paul Bailly. Curious. Violin, probably Naples, circa 1800. Cool scroll on that one for sure. Yeah, that's pretty funky. French violin by René Morizot. Violin attributed to Francesco Guadagnini, Turin, 1912. Violin, probably Italian, circa 1930. French violin by Paul Cowell, Nantes, 12 to 16 on that. English violin by John Barrett, London, circa 1730. This is pretty cool. Interesting violin from one of the interesting London makers, 4 to 6 on that, starting with 3.5. 360 length of back there, it's quite interesting. Soundpost crack in table and back, so it has some real issues. Yeah, it's kind of see what's going on there, but it looks like it's been repaired. German violin, circa 1900. French violin by Marc Lebert. It's got that kind of classic French look to it. French violin by Pierre Gagini, Nice, 1936. A violin attributed to and possibly by Raphael Vaccari, Parma, 1930. Spanish violin by Solar Fernando Gonzalez, Madrid, 1971. Cool scroll on that. 4 to 6 on that. An English violin by James Steele, London, 1923. Estimates 1,000 to 1,500. A violin, okay. It's one of these curious looking things with loads of dark kind of antiquing on it, so that's a little bit suspect anyway. But 1,000 to 1,500 on that, starting bids of 800, and I think that is the last lot. So yeah, there we have it. That's the Brompton sale for the 8th of December. Quite a lot of things going on in this auction, about 300 lots or so, so fairly significant looking auction. I'll put a link in the description as always. Check it out, see what you think. Thanks a lot for watching as always, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.